All right, let's jump right in. We're going to unpack one of the most famous and maybe one of the most misunderstood phrases out there: take up your cross. And drawing from a really fantastic sermon by Pastor Paul, we're going to explore what those words really meant in their original and frankly dangerous context. You've heard this a million times, right? Oh, this bad knee, it's just my cross to bear. We use it to talk about some kind of personal hardship we have to put up with all on our own. But here's the thing. Is that what Jesus was actually talking about? Not even close. The original meaning was something way more public and way more radical. To get it, we have to go back in time. We have to put ourselves in the first century Roman world and ask a simple question. What was a cross back then? I can tell you it wasn't a pretty piece of jewelry. It was something much, much darker. Here's the key thing you have to understand. Crucifixion wasn't just a way to kill someone. It was a political tool. It was Rome's brutal public billboard. They used it to send a very clear message. If you stand up to us, if you challenge the empire, this is what happens to you. It was pure intimidation, plain and simple. And look at who was being crucified. Roman citizens? Nope, they were protected by law. This was a punishment saved specifically for people who actively resisted the Roman Empire. So when Jesus tells his followers to take up a cross, he's not talking about a personal problem. He's making a profound political statement about siding against the dominant power of the day. So this command, it forces you to make a choice. It's basically a declaration of your ultimate loyalty. Are you going to go with the way of the empire, which keeps order through threats and violence, or are you going to choose the way of Jesus? You see, the standard pledge of allegiance back then was Caesar is Lord. It meant Caesar was the ultimate power on earth and that the empire's peace was kept by an army. So when the disciple Peter looks at Jesus and says, "You are the Lord," that's an act of treason. He's challenging the empire's core belief. He's choosing a completely different kind of kingdom, built on a totally different kind of peace. Which makes what happens next so incredibly jarring. Right after Peter's huge confession of faith, Jesus explains that he has to suffer and die. And Peter, trying to be a good friend, says, "No way, that can't happen." And Jesus' response is just brutal. "Get behind me, Satan." So what in the world is going on here? This is a really crucial point. In this context, the word Satan literally just means adversary or opponent. Jesus isn't saying Peter is the devil. He's saying, Peter, in this moment, your thinking is standing in opposition to God's plan. You're being an adversary to the path I have to walk. And all of this leads to 3 really clear commands. First, deny yourself. This means stop making self-preservation your #1 priority. Second, take up your cross. Now we know what that means. It's about willingly accepting the consequences of siding against the empire for something better. And third, follow me. It's an active journey, not just a set of beliefs you agree with. This all flows into one of the most mind-bending paradoxes in all of Jesus' teachings. The idea that if you want to save your life, you actually have to lose it first. Let's try to unpack that. Now, this isn't just about becoming a martyr. It's about a total flip in your priorities. If you spend all your time and energy just clinging to your own comfort, your reputation, your own safety, what the world calls saving your life, Jesus says you'll end up losing everything that actually matters. But if you let go of all that for a bigger purpose, that's where you find what real life is all about. The death of the ego, yeah, that's a perfect way to describe it. It's about putting the needs of other people and the good news of the gospel ahead of your own personal ambitions or what other people think of you. It's about that humbling realization that, you know what, maybe the world doesn't revolve around me. And this quote from Pastor Holford's sermon, wow, it brings this whole idea right into our living rooms. He suggests that maybe we've all gotten a little too comfortable, a little too cozy with the systems of power around us. So cozy, in fact, that we've forgotten what it even means to be countercultural, what it means to actually take up a cross and challenge the way things are. So, what does this actually look like in practice right now, today? Well, the sermon gives us incredibly powerful, real-life example of a community that decided to choose the way of the cross instead of the way of comfort. You know, the sermon reminds us of the story of the woman at the well, someone who was totally shamed and pushed to the margins by her culture. And the way of Jesus, the way of the cross, is to walk directly toward the people who are shamed and excluded, not with judgment, but with an offer of restoration. And here is the modern-day parallel. Pastor Halford talks about how his congregation started a recovery house for women who, just like that woman at the well, had been marginalized and shamed. And by doing that, by this very real, tangible act, the whole community was basically shouting down those negative voices and saying, "You are worthy of love. You belong." And this is what taking up a cross can look like today. It's not a metaphor. It's sacrificing your resources. It's intentionally standing with the people that society ignores. It's about tearing down those walls that create an us and them, and instead building a bigger table where everyone has a seat. It's a conscious choice to put the good of others ahead of your own comfort. So we'll end with this question, which comes directly from the source material. Taking up your cross was never supposed to be about passively dealing with a private problem. It's a call to take active, courageous steps, whether they're big or small, to build a better world. So the question for each of us is, what's that one step for you?